welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to do a fun little project share as I found a way to use this Wheel Factory die set to make all sorts of pretty fun holiday cards. Mostly because of the fact that when the spokes on the wheel really, to me, look like they sort of focus your eye on whatever's in the center. I was reminded of sort of the, like, paintings you see in churches and whatnot, where you have sort of the important religious people with the sort of halo thing behind them. So, like, I guess if you don't know the story, you can figure out who's important or not. But basically, I just die cut out the biggest size here. This layering piece is about 3 1/4, and then the actual wheel is more like 3 inches. And after I broke in the die set a little bit, like, this wheel die doesn't stick at all, which is really nice, 'cause, poking things out is always a little bit of a pain. So this is sort of the most simple way to go about getting this. This is just a single piece of Spellbinders ephemera just glued on top of the wheel, and none of the little segment pieces are used. Then in a slightly earlier filming of this video where my camera was freaking out, I did this one where you're basically using the pearlescent brown and then copper, and then you just sort of use a die cut piece to just sort of highlight it. So you basically have 2 layers and a focal point. So this is pretty much like almost a card, right? I also die cut out of the glitter card stock. This one was from Mary's boyfriend Michael's. And it cut really cleanly. Like, I have some of the pie pieces left, and I mean, the edges on this are really nice. And you might say, What on earth will I do with all these pie pieces?" Well, if you watch the last in review, you can see what I did with the pie stamp, and you can do a similar thing where you can just create a border or a background with them. In fact, you'll see that in one of the cards. So, this is sort of a partial one, and then this one was neat. This was, lunar paste on some snowflake embossing. I don't even remember where the folder's from. It's been in my stash for a while. And then you can just use this as sort of a background. But, like, if I were to say put a piece on top of this, I think it may adds a lot of really nice dimension and texture. Plus, since these have no sharp corners, they're really easy to store. Um, this was actually my favorite. I did like a mica background. So if you do any creative backgrounds, I think they can be sort of seen through this. Like, they tend to look really stained glassy. Um, because you have sort of your spokes and then you have your pieces together. I didn't wind up actually cutting out a more like a pattern paper image to see how that would look. So I didn't really have anything where the spoke in the middle wouldn't have been sort of a detraction. But anyway, so those are some wheels. This card you may have seen. It was the original one I did with the wheels die set using this technique. Um, Again, the ephemera sort of shifted down, so it sort of looks more like a window. You could have actually done a little bit of coloring on the bottom here to make it look like it was on a table too. But I sort of like this idea of using your pattern paper like a stained glass window. And then this is just another Spellbinders ephemera piece popped up. I really liked the poinsettia I did that was white on white, so I did a white on white card, except in true me fashion, it's not white on white because I find that kind of boring. But this is mostly white shimmer cardstock with a little bit of this pattern is the sort of underwheel piece is cut out of that. It's fairly subtle, but it just adds a little bit more interest than just being all white. And then again, this was out of the Oh What Fun journaling card set, which I don't know if that's still around. It was on like fire sale for like $1, but spoiler, if any of the Spellbinders ephemera is still on fire sale, I would pick it up. So I had a bunch of leftover pieces and was curious to see if I could use the wheel in a more geometric way, and I think this was pretty successful. I really like using the like wheel pieces, pies, whatever, to sort of border this and give it a little more interest. And then this is probably a card base you've seen me make before. The top panel is shorter, so you can actually get 2 of these out of an 8.5 by 11, so it's very efficient. And then this one wasn't one that was also one of my favorites. I used the pie pieces and just organized them into a candy cane so that you can either do that by interlocking, again, not interlocking, but having the curved pieces opposite to each other, which is what I did, which gives you sort of a total candy cane. But you could also, like, if you piece them together like a pie, you will eventually get a peppermint or a piece of a peppermint. These are actually 7 segments, so you're not gonna get, exactly even. Um, but you could basically do almost all of these and then hide it with a then do this technique where you sort of hide it with a die cut, and then you can't tell. Or if you used a larger die cut, and did it like this, but, made these peppermints, it would look kinda like that. But this is one of my favorites. I like it. I like this sort of candy cane look, and the other thing you could do with these, I don't have the card anymore, but if you look on the last in review, Mary showed it off. But you can basically just use these haphazardly to just sort of do like a random border. So like if I just sort of, you could just sort of layer these together or on top of each other. But like you could just sort of you could just bring in a whole bunch of different colors and have it be just sort of a fun sort of holiday vibe, right? Like if we had grab our placeholder image. I probably wouldn't use the red. I probably wouldn't use these particular colors together, but you get the idea. Like you could just sort of do a haphazard sort of thing too if you want to give a little more motion to your card, like a sense of movement, right? Like something like that would be pretty cool, cute. I probably wouldn't do blue. I probably the copper makes sense because there's copper in the car, and then maybe one more, maybe one of these lightly patterned ones, but something like that. This I think would look really cool as just sort of capturing sort of all the chaos of the holidays and the scramble to get to grandma's or whatnot. Anyway, thanks for checking this out. These were just a few of my ideas on how to use this wheel die set in sort of a non traditional way. Talk to you guys later.